Welcome. Bienvenidos. This is Nick Finelli, host and producer of the Charlotte FC podcast. Thanks for listening. I was lucky enough, no Irish pun intended here, to sit down with Kevin Egan, host of MLS 360 and MLS Wrap-Up, part of the MLS Season Pass on Apple TV. We talk about what it's like working for MLS and these shows, how he approaches his career, and a little about his journey and the things he learned along the way. It's time for the Charlotte FC podcast. Hi, Kevin. Welcome.
Great to be here, Nick. How are you?
Doing great. Good to see you. So many people who are listening know who you are, but for those who don't, just give us your best elevator pitch to introduce yourself and your current roles.
Well, my current role is I'm a dad to two kids, a husband to Meg. I am a soccer lover, and I happen to work in a place that I adore in Major League Soccer on Apple TV. I'm the host of MLS 360 and MLS Wrap-Up. And we just wrapped up our Leagues Cup coverage and we're back into the swing of things with Major League Soccer now here in the final stretch.
Awesome. Can you share how you got into that role? Because, new show in the past couple of years, you were doing commentating and other things. How did you get this MLS 360 host role?
I've been a host for a long time now, going back through, my days at beIN Sports in studio. I hosted a nightly show there. And I think last year, I was asked to fill in a few times. I was commentating on the road, and there was I think 8 or 9 dates that I filled in studio. And then they just changed things around a little bit, and I was asked to be the full-time 360 host this year.
Awesome. And I know you're having fun out there, and we'll talk more about you and your colleagues and what you all do and that kind of excitement that you bring. But one thing that struck me in an interview that you had with The Athletic, I think it was back when you were working in WWE and also doing some football stuff, you said, ultimately, storytelling is a common denominator. So I'm guessing this applies to the greater sense of MLS 360. How does storytelling lead your work each week?
I think it's very important that people understand the context, the stakes, what has been the team's story so far this season, both as well as the game story. So you've got the micro and the macro stories here to tell. So if you're talking about Charlotte, maybe it's a simple case of, okay, well, this is a team that to many people have underperformed since the beginning of the club in Major League Soccer, certainly under Christian Lattanzio. But then this season, Dean Smith comes in and there's this new zest for the game around the team and their performances. And I think the fan base would agree with that. So, but then there's maybe the more micro storytelling of, is Karol Swiderski really the 9? Has Patrick Agyeman been shoved to the side because he's returned? And how do Charlotte implement some of their newer pieces to the team, like Pep Biel, to make this team tick with a 10 in play? So there's absolutely the storytelling from a macro and a micro stage, but also it's how you tell the stories as well, and the emotion that has to be attached with storytelling in order to hook people.
So you kind of leaned into my next question. So how do you go about telling a story? Because Charlotte's just one club, there's 29 clubs, there's lots of different things going on. How do you keep up and prepare, and how do you write it so that story comes out?
I think luckily for me, and it's probably the case for my colleagues too, that it's what we do and we love the game. So you're taking in information without even realizing it. You wake up in the morning and with your coffee, you're just taking a look at what's going on in the soccer world and Major League Soccer and beyond. And I think it's important to understand and research the world's game and what's going on in some of the biggest leagues in the world as well. You always have to have that context, and you can always draw comparisons to things earlier. I was on Sirius XM this morning early, and I compared to a different audience, potentially. I compared Dejan Joveljic with LA Galaxy to an Ole Gunnar Solskjaer or Chicharito Hernandez type striker. And I think that's important for the growth of Major League Soccer to be able to compare and to use your knowledge of the world's game to help grow our game. Also, I think about even last night, for example, and storytelling and prep. The stories that you have continue throughout the season and they become themes. So LAFC go to Seattle last night in the US Open Cup and they win again. And you got to go back 11 games between these two teams to find the last time Seattle beat LAFC. And that could very well become another storyline come the playoffs this year. And like the LAFC ousted Seattle in Leagues Cup, in Open Cup, in MLS play this year already. And so these stories are reoccurring, and then you're adding to them. And the first few weeks of the season are the hardest because a lot has changed for a lot of teams in the off season. The expectations maybe shift. Like St. Louis maybe punched above their weight last year, and they come in this year. Bradley Carnell, to many people, was the coach of the year last year. He's been let go, and their story has completely shifted. But it's fun, man. It is fun. Like, I love the constant research, the preparation, and 360 is wild. You don't know how much you're going to get to use. Like, if you use maybe 2, 3, 4% of your knowledge throughout an MLS 360 show, you're doing well. But you're not going to use most of it. It's just not the way it works.
Yeah. So what are your takeaways from your previous work? Because you've had a storied career with beIN, Atlanta United, Fox, WWE, lots of other places. Are there certain things that you took from each of those experiences and be like, all right, I'm using this?
Yeah, and I think that just coincided with different stages in life, you know, like at say Chicago Fire, for example, when I first started becoming a commentator there, I was so green. I was mainly, before the fire, I'd say 80% of my work was production. So I was a graphics producer. I was editing the tapes, you know, the highlights, working with broadcasters to make sure they felt that their tape was good enough to go on air. So a lot of that ensured that I garnered a greater appreciation for how the overall show was pieced together. So that one day, if I was ever good enough to make it on air, then you'd understand the overall picture of television, which I think is crucially important for any young person listening to this show, that if you want to go into TV and one day be a commentator, one day be a TV host, work behind the scenes, get some experience doing the tapes, doing the graphics, making tea and coffee if need be, because if you make the tea and coffee, you have access to every room in the building. You're talking to the coordinating producers, the directors, you're speaking with the big bosses, you're speaking with the on-air hosts, you're speaking with the other people that make the tea and coffee. And you just, like I said, you garner that appreciation for how the overall show is pieced together. And you can't just go on air and not understand how a show works. And if you do, that's when I think you're exposed. And that's when, if there's, not literally, but if there's a fire going on in the control room and the graphics machine crashes and all these things happen, but you've never been there and you don't understand what that's like, I think that's when you're noticed on air.
Yeah. So do you feel like you've hit like your sweet spot? Like, this is the area that you're most ready for in what you're doing now?
Yeah, I do. And I think it's a lovely feeling to be able to say that, Nick. Thanks for asking that, because I've been in other roles where I've thought, okay, I really like this. WWE was a tremendous experience for 3 years. But at the end, I knew I wanted to leave. It just got to a place where it just wasn't me. The role wasn't for me. This role that I'm doing now, I know personally, professionally, I feel, especially personally, I'm thriving because I'm having more time with my kids. When I go to work, I'm full of energy and refreshed, and I'm not killing myself trying to do both roles and, you know, living on an airplane, missing my children. There's a lovely balance about it now, being able to take the kids to school and like just finding balance in what you do. And balance is attainable. People say it's not. It's certainly times you're stretched. Like Leagues Cup, I was gone for, I think, 25 of the last 30 days. So there's times that you'll have to sacrifice. But I feel like this 360 show and what we're doing, and hopefully we're growing each and every day with Apple, that I'm in my element from a professional standpoint and a personal standpoint.
Well, I think it's obvious from just watching the show, you and your colleagues. The one thing I wanted to say about balance, I think a lot of people think balance needs to be 50-50. It's not that. It's just how it works for you and how it fits your life. I just feel like it's obvious in what you've done and seeing your previous work and how you are now. You just seem in flow. So getting back to your colleagues, you're kind of the lead there. You're the one without the soccer playing career, the football playing career. How do you get the most out of Sacha, Kaylyn, and Bradley?
Yeah, I played ball last night. I played 60 minutes last night with a bunch of guys that are all better than me. And I think it's important for me nearly to do that and to go out and play, because for me, and I love playing the game. I've always played the game. I played Gaelic football. That was my sport growing up. But Nick, when you put yourself in that position, when you're receiving the ball under pressure, and when you don't check your blind side, or when you don't give the simple pass and you think you can play that big switch, that's when, as a host, it ignites curiosity in me. Like when a player on 360 is receiving the ball under pressure, like Busquets or Emeka and Ellie for RSL or Ashley Westwood for Charlotte, and they can quickly receive the ball and understand 360, pun intended, what their landscape looks like. I think that's crucially important for me then to go out and feel it and try to understand it. So then I'm asking the best questions to my analysts. And I've got 3 analysts that are phenomenal at what they do. They've had tremendous careers. Kaylyn Kyle's played over 100 times for Canada, played in a couple of World Cups, is an Olympic medalist. Sacha, one of the greatest creators the league has ever seen. And Bradley Wright-Phillips, a 2-time Golden Boot winner. So you have 3 analysts with 3 different areas of expertise. And I think it's important as a host for me to go and play and to take those hits, but also, just fail in a way to understand how difficult it is what they did for a living.
Yeah, you're kind of like the captain. You should wear the captain's badge when you're out there, because you're pitching to them and saying, you're all doing this together, but you're leaning on them for certain things. Like I know Sacha's, like you said, with passing and things like that, he sees the game differently than Bradley sees it from like a striker point of view. And then Kaylyn brings in all her experience and also sees the emotions and stuff that's happening and what's going on with the coach and the relationships. I feel like that blend is working out well. So how did you build that bond? Was it just natural? Like what happened?
I think it's natural, like we get along really well. The 3 of us, Kaylyn's, she'd like me to say significantly younger. She's definitely younger than the 3 of us. Brad, Sacha and I are all 85 babies. We're all the same age. We would have been in the same class in school, and we genuinely get along really, really well. We've got different backgrounds like Ireland, England, US, Canada. Yet we're all very Americanized in a way, but we're all very European in a way. Like Kaylyn's married to an Englishman. She's just got a real European vibe about her. And Sacha is very much Serbian. And he's played over in Belgium with Anderlecht. Brad has played all around in England too, and is son of a legend in Ian Wright. Aside from all that, we just connect as human beings, and they're good people. So we're all in it for the right reasons. We're all in it to really help everything grow and prosper, and our league, that is. And I just have fun working with them. But it's my job to get the best out of the analysts. That's the role of a host. First and foremost, is to make them feel comfortable. Make sure they feel confident going in, like big them up, but also if I can help in any way, I'll help. Like I always feel Ernie Johnson is the captain of the ship on TNT with their NBA coverage. Rebecca Lowe is that captain on NBC's Premier League coverage. And those are 2 of the best hosts in the country for me to study and just learn from, really. Yeah.
So are you talking like ahead of time, like, getting their takes, like, what is your big take? Maybe it's a match, that you guys are highlighting or focusing on, or just in general while you're doing your turnaround stuff. Are you all talking in the background like, hey, we want to bring this out, or this is important?
Yeah, without a doubt. And sometimes it's just on the spot. Like we could be texting during the week. There might be some news breaking and Brad might say something and I'll jot it down. And I'll say, hey, we were texting during the week and you said this. Why? And this is what I love about Sash, Brad and Kaylyn. They're self-deprecating. You can take the mick out of them. For lack of a better way of saying it, you can put them on the spot. All of them are able to deal with that. I could throw them under the bus in the nicest way possible and say, hang on a second. Like Sacha last week said that New York City don't have a striker. They don't have a striker that will help them compete. And then Martinez goes and scores a brace, the Costa Rican. So I can then say, you said right before we came on air that New York City don't, defend yourself. And he's well able. Kaylyn's well able and Brad's well able. So I respect that. They don't get in a twist if I do that to them, because I think it's good TV. And the fans respect it. They want to be called out too.
Yeah, and that also tells a story too. So you don't want to watch things that are stagnant. You want people challenged and going back and forth. So what's the most challenging part about your role?
To effectively storytell and make sure that everybody's up to date and make sure that I'm in sync with my producer. We've had a change in producer. One of the guys that we were working with was phenomenal, but with the company, he needed to go onto a different role back in England on the Premier League. Actually, he was exceptional. Like he changed, but both of us workshopped 360 in the off season, and we'd be talking about what we liked from last year, what we want to change. And we really did workshop it, like going through every single element of the show. And he was just so good. He's become a dear friend and I miss him. But our new producer is excellent as well. So different and excellent too. So we make sure that we're in sync, that the show moves. Like, it's very important, I think, that the show moves. Like, when we go on air and when we get to kickoffs, if we've got, say, we have six games kicking off at 7:30 Eastern this week. So we'll nearly not rate the games, but like, if Miami are playing Cincinnati like last week, that's the first game we're going to go to.
Right.
And you get there, like, I think Atlanta, Charlotte is a big one,
Right.
you know, where you can get there soon and you get quick thoughts from the three guys. And if there's a goal elsewhere, we'll bounce. You know, I love you, but we got to go.
Yeah.
We bounce out
Right.
to the goal that's happened, or we keep going around the grounds and we keep it moving. 360, I don't want to get stale. I think it's important that we move, we tell stories, but we keep it at a pace that is digestible and that is enjoyable, hopefully.
Nice. Now, do you have a favorite part if you were kind of separating it, like the creative part, the producer part, or the performance part? Would there be a favorite part of doing the show?
I think all aspects of it are very important. Like, we have 45 seconds of an open before we get into the soccer. And every week we try to have fun with our opens. Our opens are usually posted on social media, and we usually try and just have a bit of fun. So this week, Sacha was failing in trying to replicate the Christian Ramirez loop pass for Diego Rossi at the Leagues Cup. So we were, you know, I came out, I'm having fun saying, like, they're going to be raring to go this week. And I come out and there they are messing around in studio. And so we come up with different ideas every week for the open. And once we get into the show, I think it has to be about personality. It has to have opinion. You have to have knowledge, and you have to have entertainment. Those four categories are what I try and evaluate our show on. You know, I don't know if there's one that outweighs the other. Maybe, you know, knowledge, obviously you have to have knowledge of the league. Personality, the entertainment are crucially important.
Well, you are a high energy guy. You once said that the way you approach work is, I'm not one of these people who studies how and why I do things. It's more of a feel. And you said you got to be yourself. So the Kevin we see on camera, is that the same one we see at home and doing other things about?
Yeah, it absolutely is. And I don't change. Like, I love this. And if I've changed in any way, or if you've seen a different version of me on air, maybe that tells you where I'm happiest. And I'm happiest doing what I'm doing right now. It's just, it doesn't, like, this was the way when I first got a chance to do 360 last year, this was just the way I was. And I love this job. And I often think about people that are the same person on air, you know, like Ray Hudson, I worked with for years. Ray, I'll never forget working at beIN Sports, and the first time he stormed into the office area where everybody was, there were pizza. It was a late night South American World Cup qualifying night, and there were pizza, and he's like, pizza, what kind of pizza have we got? And he just brought so much infectious enthusiasm and love for the moment in life that I thought, wow, he's like that on air, but he's actually really like that off air too. And he just has this zest for life that is infectious. And we get one go at this whole life that we're living, and I want to enjoy it. And I certainly enjoy work, and I love my home life. So I feel very fortunate.
That's awesome. So the Egan family seems to like to go to Chicago, meet their wives there, live life. You know, you have talked a lot about your wife, Meg, and just the profound impact she's had on you. So how does she foster you to be your best self?
In everything she does, honestly, and I hope I'm the same for her. And I mean that sincerely. I read something the other day about how, like, it's the most crucial decision you'll ever make in terms of your life partner, if you have one or if you want one.
Right.
And you have something like 18,000 meals together. If you live to the average age, say, you hear about that person's day, again, a ridiculous number. And I just thought to myself, man, when I read that, I'm like, I'm so lucky, because we get along so well. We're so opposite in so many ways. But our morals and the way we see the world and the way we want to raise our kids is very similar. She's the best. She's the love of my life. She is my biggest supporter by a long shot. You know, her and my mom, I'd say. And yeah, I just feel so lucky, because our kids are life is, Charlie Stilitano always says, my friend from Sirius XM, he always says, my life is perfect. And he says it. And he says it and he means it. And I genuinely feel just so stupidly lucky, because, like I said, work is so much fun. I love it. And then at home, I feel like the luckiest guy in the world.
That's awesome. So you grew up in North Dublin. You began working your way up. You were talking about making the teas, making the coffees. You did that at RTE Sport and worked your way up. Meanwhile, your father was an All-Ireland Gaelic football, and you talked about that being like an immense amount of pride for you. So you're around football at a young age. Looking back at your journey to now, what would you say was your biggest break? And was it like preparation meets opportunity or something else?
Yeah. I was talking with Gio Savarese the other day, former Portland head coach and now analyst at Apple TV. And we were talking about luck. And I said to him, I feel like with this role now and with career and with just I feel just lucky, really lucky. And he says, no. There's no such thing as luck. And we were arguing back and forth about the meaning of luck or whatever else. Mm-hmm. And he talked about the work you put in or how you approach things, the lens you see life through. And I said, that's all well and good, but I mean this with all due respect to people there, but I wasn't born in a shanty town in New Delhi. I wasn't born into a position in life or a place in life that meant that the odds were really and truly stacked against me. I feel very lucky that I was born into a loving family with an opportunity to travel. And my parents, we were left wanting for nothing, but we didn't have a lot of money coming in when we were younger, but they gave us all the love in the world. So in terms of my biggest break, I would say my mother and father cheering me on, saying, of course you can go for it. Like if you want to give this a go and try and break into television, go and do it. And that having the confidence from them to say, okay, I'm going to apply to be in the audience. I used to apply to sit in the audience for all these political shows and kids shows or whatever. And I was the furthest thing from interested in politics, but I'd go and I'd zone out for the whole show. I'd be sitting in the audience hoping that I wouldn't get called upon, and I'd zone out. But I'd just watch the stage manager, I'd watch the host, I'd watch the camera crew, and I'd try and study everything about a studio. And then one day, this is probably my biggest break, being honest with you. I was 18, I'd say. I asked the stage manager at a show, could I please have one of the rundowns? They call it a running order back in Ireland. And on that rundown, the show script, for anyone that's not sure what that is, the show outline, it had the people that work on the show. It had all their phone numbers. So I'd call these phone numbers and I'd tell them that I'm this, I just started college and I'm only in college, 20 minutes away. If I could come work on the weekends or come work after school, I'd love to help out. I'd love a job. So I ended up calling the same guy twice within a couple of months. And he said, look, don't call me again. There's actually been an agency set up that hire runners to make tea and coffee. So that ended up leading to an interview with that company. I got the job and I started working on the Olympics in 2004. So just this month, actually, I realized only a few days ago, this month celebrated 20 years since that break into TV, which was the 14th of August, 2004 was my first day making tea and coffee. And I was so nervous, but it was such a good break. And then the other break would have been obviously getting my first job in TV in the US with the Big Ten Network, which was a huge break because I was Irish, didn't have a clue about US sports. Nobody cared about soccer there, really.
Yeah.
And it took a while. It took about 6 months to get a job in TVs from moving over. So those are two big breaks. I would say probably the first one, just to give me the confidence to say to myself, this is an industry that I love. And I didn't know what I wanted to do in TV. Had no idea whether I wanted to be a director or producer, maybe one day try my luck on air. But I adore the industry I'm in now.
That's cool. So let's fast forward even further. What haven't you done yet that you might like to do someday? Maybe it's not in sports, maybe it's not in entertainment. I know you've been doing MC work and doing some speaking. So what are you looking forward to maybe down the road?
Honestly, I just signed a new deal with Apple and MLS. And I think I really just want to go all in on this for now. And I don't want to look to what's next or think that the grass is greener down the line somewhere. If you were to say, like, is there one thing I think working on a World Cup would be a dream. No question. So maybe there's a chance to be part of World Cup's coverage, the World Cup coverage in Fox in 2026. Who knows? But I just love what I do now. And I don't, I've always, we live in a time when you flick on Instagram and you're scrolling and it's just, oh, look at that person, what they're doing, or there's comparison. And it is true. Comparison is the thief of joy. So just if you're in the midst of something and you're enjoying it, realize that, grass is water versus real, thinking that the grass is greener on the other side, and I do believe. So yeah, I want to get better at what I'm doing with 360 and MLS coverage. I want to improve the show, hopefully get more eyeballs on the show, and do everything we can to push that show forward. That's kind of where I'm at right now. And honestly, Nick, with the age of AI, with the way things are changing with TV and streaming, we're still in the teething phase of it, but it's changing by the day. So I think it'd be very foolish to think, oh, well, 10 years down the line, I want to do this, because I think the whole landscape will have shifted by then. So it's being at the forefront, adjusting with the changes as they happen, and consuming as much of the industry as we can.
Awesome.
It's stoppage time.
So you ready?
Yeah, let's do it.
Do you have walk-up music?
No, I listen to every single type of music. My wife laughs at me because in the morning I could have, like lately I've had Oasis on because Oasis are returning.
Right, I heard that.
World, so I've been blaring Oasis, but I could go from Oasis to Casey Musgrave to, Christy Moore, an Irish singer. I don't really have a genre of music that I gravitate toward.
And there's nothing like when you enter the room, that's your song that people like, here comes Kevin.
No, but I was thinking, like, if I walk into a room, what song would be? Maybe Bittersweet Symphony by The Verve.
All right. Do you have a must-do personal ritual?
No, not really. Just no, I love getting out in the morning. I love waking up and having coffee and getting that sunlight in the morning, and up early with the kids anyway. So lately it's been going to bed a lot earlier because James started kindergarten. So he's in school early. So morning ritual is just have fun with the babies before they head off to school.
All right. Do you have a favorite unplugged activity?
I love like working out, like just playing football. I played football last night. I'm playing tennis tonight with a friend. And if I can go to a class with my wife, we go to this Burn Boot Camp class here. That's fun. And then like honestly, just watching a show. We're watching Your Honor at the moment. Bryan Cranston.
Good show.
Yeah, we're having fun with that one. So that's it really.
Yes. That's pretty riveting. Go-to snack while watching the match?
Go-to snack while watching them? Probably chips and guac.
All right. What design impresses you more, interiors or exteriors?
I would say interior by a long shot. And talking about human beings, I think the interior versus the exterior, you spot people a mile away who are trying to put on something that's not really, it's not true. The exterior doesn't tell you the full story of that person, whereas the interior, I just love a good, wholesome human being. So yeah, interior.
All right. Do you find starting a project or finishing one more gratifying?
I would say I wouldn't pick, because I think it's just the journey, the process of the beginning or the end, or whatever that end may be. Embrace what's thrown at you and enjoy the journey.
And then obviously you've talked about things that recharge you, but do you do something to get away from this? Because it is pretty much a full year job.
No, and the last 3 years with WWE and MLS doing both at the same time have meant that it's been 12 months a year. It's been every week. It's been a grind. Whereas this year with doing Apple and going all in on this project, we're going to have an off season, and there's chances to wind down during the week. So there's much better health benefits to just doing what I'm doing now. Yeah, a chance to unwind. I'm going to probably head back to Ireland a lot more and get back to mom and dad if I can. A few times a year if possible, and take the kids and breathe in that fresh country air in Ireland.
Sweet. Last question. What position would you most like to play if you're on the pitch in today's MLS?
I'd be a right back. Definitely a right back, because I'm not, like we were talking about earlier, Nick, to receive the ball under pressure and have that vision that Sacha had during his career. I need to see the game in front of me, and I've played right back throughout my life. That's kind of been my position. I love to get up and down the field. So that's my role. Is
there a player that you would be kind of like in their style?
I don't know. I don't want to insult any player.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. Probably a bad question for you. You cover everybody. You'll be the best Kevin at right back. That's what we'll say. All right, man. Well, I appreciate you being on the show. Thanks for your time, and enjoy this weekend.
What a pleasure chatting to you. Thanks, Nick.
Thank you, sir. I really hope you enjoyed that interview. We had a lot of fun chatting, and Kevin is just so inspiring. His excitement and love for the game and his work is contagious. Again, thanks for listening to another episode of the Charlotte FC podcast, where we bring you the fascinating people who work for and around Charlotte FC and the world of football. The Charlotte FC podcast is edited and produced by me, Nick Finelli, and Eli Finelli. Please help us out and share this episode with others. 5 stars, and follow CLTFC Podcast on Instagram, X, and YouTube. Until next time, enjoy the day.